name's Samina Kiyani. I'm a broadcast journalist and TV producer. And for those who have been joining me each week, you know that I've got over 25 years experience working in TV, and I've also worked across radio and film. And so I've got plenty of experience of what this industry's approach is to diversity, inclusion, and representation. Representation of people from diverse communities like my good self. I'm British, I'm Pakistani, I'm a woman. So as you can imagine, it's super, super important for me that this industry creates equal opportunities for all. It doesn't matter what your background is. Each week, I'm catching up with a different industry professional from different backgrounds, all kinds of ages and all kinds of different roles, to share their stories of this really important issue, and also to share their thoughts and opinions on how we can move things forward and progress things. So now it's time to introduce my guest. She is a series producer at Iranian-speaking TV channel Monoto. She's also a filmmaker. I'd like to welcome Tina Ghazimorad. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you for having me, Samina.
It's a pleasure. Now, Tina, you are of Iranian descent, you have Iranian heritage, and so can you share with, and of course you're a woman, very attractive woman as well, may I add. Would you like to share with us what your experience has been of inclusion and representation in this business?
So my experience of inclusion in this business, if we want to talk about my homeland and my country, which is important to put that into context as well for me when we're discussing this, is that in Iran...
can I just give it context as well? So
yeah, sure.
You know, so let me just fill everybody in. Tina is Iranian. She was raised in Iran, then came to the UK, and she works in the UK currently. So just to give everybody the background. Sorry, Tina, go ahead.
Thank you for that. So in Iran, it's different. I mean, it's really difficult to be able to join the industry and work as a woman in creative industry. And so when I came here, so it was a different experience for myself comparing UK to Iran, because UK for me was the haven of diversity, and also provides a lot of opportunity for diversity. So we need to consider that. But I understand some people, as you mentioned, like yours, has a different experience. And the other thing is that for me, because I started to work at the Iranian TV channel, it's different. My experience was different. If I wanted to work it somewhere else, my experience would be different. So, but consider my experience as someone who's coming from Iran with that background and then working at Iranian TV channel here in UK.
Yeah, and this is interesting. I thought it'd be really great to speak to you to get a different perspective on the diversity angle, because it's relative. It's relative to where you are, what your experience is going to be. And, you know, as you shared with us, it was a bit more challenging over in Iran as a woman to get into, you know, the media business. Whereas when you came over here, you found it actually quite inspirational. It was a bit more easier, you know. But what's interesting is that then you went on to work for an Iranian TV channel. So is that TV channel way more liberal than what you previously experienced then? What's the difference?
Absolutely. The thing is that, you know, what I really appreciate, though, is the fact that we can discuss these things freely. We can raise it, we can discuss it and put it there for public opinion. And we shouldn't be worried about the consequences. But then in Iran, that was impossible, kind of really difficult if you wanted to discuss such topics. So that I also appreciate about UK. But I was lucky because this environment is very liberal. You have actually most of our managers, most of our senior producers are women. And maybe we appreciate this opportunity even more comparing to men, because we couldn't do it back home. So here we embrace it fully. We even overperform sometimes because, you know, it was taken away from us. But here, because they provide this this opportunity, equal opportunity for myself, for my other colleagues. So I think it's a different level of experience. Sometimes people complain to me that your work is so important, it's your life. But to be honest with you, it's just this opportunity is so unique. That's why it's so precious to me, that I want to use every moments of it to produce, to deliver, to have an impact.
Yeah, I mean, I love this, what you're saying. And this is part of what I want to convey in my interview series, because I think a lot of people in the UK sometimes forget, particularly decision makers, that even here in the UK, there's been a process for women to get, we're still nowhere near equal, but to get progress. Likewise, people from diverse communities such as myself and yourself, there's a process, and there's a time frame which things will, hopefully, I'm very optimistic, will evolve and change. But I think the very important thing that you've said is how precious it is to have equal opportunities, and the importance of fighting for equal opportunities. I don't mean literally fighting, but
I know.
Like opening your mouth and requesting that you get equal opportunities.
Exactly.
This is why I'm doing this series, to give all my industry colleagues, from different backgrounds, a platform on which to speak, because I haven't seen such platform where people like you and myself have been given significant time or wide enough range of people to come forward and share their experiences.
Absolutely. I think sometimes, especially here, people take things for granted. As I mentioned, for me, even being able to discuss these things, raise these issues, put it in public opinion is such a precious thing that people need to consider, because easily in this world, in this time, actually 21st century, still there are countries that you are not even able to discuss these things. So don't ever take things for granted. I think as soon as you start to raise it and you start to discuss it, it's the time that you will change it, definitely, as you said. And then I know what you mean by fighting. Fighting is that you are working in a series about these things. You find people to discuss these things according to their experience. So this is how you're going to change it, and it will be changed. And as you mentioned, I am optimistic as you are that it will be changed and definitely get better.
Now, before I started doing this interview with Tina, we were having a little chat, just, getting ready to start the interview. And Tina, you shared with me that your bosses are really, really, they advocate for women, which just sounds amazing. Tell me about that.
Exactly. I think, it's my boss always tells me that without you, the women producers and managers would be impossible to run this business. And I understand that. I think it's before when he wants to give you opportunity, he doesn't think about the fact that you're underexperienced, you're a woman, and you have these things. His way of doing things, he and his wife, obviously, is just give the opportunity, and then that person will rise above that. They show their talents. So I think sometimes what happens is that people, before they give the opportunity to others, they start to think about that person is a woman, maybe his attention divided between family or work, or that person has this sort of limitations. So that's why they don't give them opportunity. The key is to give the opportunity to whoever that you want to. And sometimes people will surprise you, as we did here as Manitou. We surprised our boss to the level that he says, without women here, it would be impossible to run this business.
Well, you know what? Other decision makers listening out there, take note, because that's such a refreshing approach to this whole, at least gender, discussion. I just want to move the conversation along a little bit now to a lot of people. Growing up, I was always like, in this country, I was always like, oh, am I good enough? Can I do this? But what I didn't realize was the plethora of, skills I already had that I could avail to my potential or prospective employers. Now, languages, I speak 4 languages. I never thought to use that. So talk to me about the importance of having languages and how that can get you an in into this business.
So the language is actually the first of it is the language that helped me to communicate with you, even though you're not Iranian, so open the doors to you, open an opportunity. The language actually helped me to work on a documentary that I was needed to travel to 7 different countries. That sounded at the beginning when they offered me, it sounded like, oh my God, this is really difficult and impossible. But actually that language, knowing English and knowing Farsi and a little bit of maybe Arabic or something like that, helped me go to Egypt, helped me to go to Panama. And then I did the documentaries in 7 different countries. It had its challenges, but it helped me to make it possible. Sometimes people, as I mentioned, they try to, we're a human being. I think it's always very easy to think about the things that we don't have, to think about the negative side of it. That distracts us from thinking about the positivity, the positive things, the things that we have. And if we only think about them and work on them, we can make the best out of them. The simple things, maybe just knowing 1 extra language can open the doors to you. Knowing 1 extra software, as you mentioned, editing, can open doors for you.
I think a lot of young people from diverse communities in the UK may well come from families where there was a couple of languages being spoken in the home, or at least 1 other language apart from English. And I think maybe, they don't realize that this is a real talent, and
it's an advantage to have.
It's completely an advantage to have, and it could be really useful on certain productions, international productions. So I think this is why I wanted to talk about it. It's like you've got to really push that forward and say, well, look, and share with people that you can speak other languages, because you never know what door it might open.
Exactly.
Yeah. And how do you think, talking about environments, like you work at Monoto, share with me, like, how diverse is that? Is it all Iranian people, Farsi speaking people there?
No, it's a mix. So it's very international sort of working environment, which is amazing, because sometimes when I see my colleagues who are Spanish, I try to practice a bit of Spanish, actually because of them, to be able to communicate with them. So I also downloaded the app to be able to learn Spanish. So we have, obviously our presenters, mainly our main producers and presenters are Farsi speakers, but we also have producers who are from maybe British, Spanish, Italian, but they're producers working to produce a Farsi content.
How does that work then? Because if you don't speak the language and then you got to produce the content.
It works very well, because you know why? Because according to our experience, sometimes we see things differently, and then when they come on board, they add up. They have a different input that, they ask questions that sometimes you don't even get to, to ask. And you're like, when they ask a question about the content, it is so obvious to you that you don't question it yourself. And then when they ask it, you need to answer it, and then you think about it, and then it helps you to become sometimes more creative about this stuff. I think that is such an amazing, this mix is amazing, because they can question you, or they can have input according to their own experience, and then it's a mix of experiences that makes the content very fruitful. And
diversity brings diverse ideas into the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. So talking about diverse environments, equal opportunities for women as well as people from different backgrounds. What are your thoughts on how this can be improved? Because there's a huge discussion going on in the UK at the moment, particularly in our line of work. So what are your thoughts and ideas as to improving the status quo?
I don't want to repeat myself, but the thing is that just to you need to, instead of seeing yourself as a kind of a victim of this situation, I think you need to come out of that and just focus on being objective, focus on positivity, and then concentrate on the something like a language that you mentioned that is an advantage for you to have. So this is what I think helps to improve the situation.
Oh, that's fantastic advice. It really is, Tina. Tina, it was so lovely to speak to you today. And thanks so much for sharing your thoughts and ideas about this really, really important matter. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for all the efforts that you put into this to produce this series that helps a young generation to come over these barriers.
Yeah, I'm doing my best to trying. Thank you, Tina.
I'm sure you do. No worries.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on what's been discussed today. So please feel free to message me and tell me what your thoughts are on diversity, inclusion, representation, and also your experiences if you're at the very beginning of your career, or indeed you want to get into this career and you've got some questions. Feel free to ask me and I will do my best to pose those to my guests, future guests. All that left for me to say is if you want to see more of my interviews, then please feel free to follow me across my social media platforms, because I post regularly details of who I'll be speaking to and when. And also I invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's an icon you can hit on there. It's a little bell, which will then, once you press that, it'll give you notifications of every time I add a new interview so you don't miss out. All that's left for me to say, Tina Ghazimorad, it was an absolute pleasure speaking to her. And of course, a huge thanks to everyone who has joined me and Tina today. See you next time.